Hey everybody, quick and easy, pretty painless lecture today. So, talking ADR in regards to this post-production project we've been working on. So, we're layering our scenes, we've got all the background sounds that define the environment, and now adding sound effects and hard effects that really, coincide with the visual action. It's time to fill in the blanks with the dialogue. Now, a good portion, actually a surprising amount of dialogue in TV and film it's actually re-recorded after the fact, so that production sound is gathered sort of as like a guide, but oftentimes the production quality is less than stellar because either you've got sounds happening on set, like calls from a director or crew moving around, or maybe there's some sort of imperfections on the location. Maybe there's airplanes, or like outside my window right now, there's a lawnmower, right? So sometimes you want to get a higher quality performance. So that means that we have to get the talent back into a controlled environment to basically lip sync with themselves. And there's some interesting challenges that go along with that, both on the technical side and from sort of the performance and directive side as well. So let's go into this a little bit, and it's a pretty quick one, and there's some fun examples, and we'll just move right along. All right, so ADR, what in the world is that? It's automated dialogue replacement. All right, so we're going through this process where we've got our script and we've got our cues, and you've got an engineer in the room and your talent in front of a microphone with a screen of the the actual footage, and they're re-recording themselves so that we have a higher quality version of that dialogue. And it also gives us an opportunity to potentially add a little bit more emotion or change the emotion of our performance. So we're re-recording this stuff to improve the quality for various reasons. But we could also maybe change the context a little bit, or maybe your talent had a runny nose on the production day, sounded funny, a little sniffly, so we can change that, make them sound healthy again. And if we do a good job at this, then no one would ever know. The issue is, much like sound effects that are not synchronized properly, this is going to show up even more. If you're not synchronized well, this is not going to work out. It's going to break that illusion again and disengage your audience. So you've really got to make sure that this works well. And it's going to be a challenge recreating some dialogue, since you're not going to have access to the actual talent. You're going to have to, make the talent that is available to you work in these sort of circumstances. So that should be pretty interesting and see how that kind of goes. All right, here's a little example of an actual Hollywood film. I believe this is King Kong from like the mid 2000s.
Hello, KongIsKing.net. We are sitting here in the lovely Park Road Post doing ADR with 18 weeks left to go until the movie opens. And
can we get some breath in the voice?
Some breath?
Just try and get some breath in the
We've
voice.
got 18 weeks to go!
Don't say that! Nobody's panicking. It's all
No
good.
one's panicking. It's all good. We're
All
here
right.
in the ADR room. Check it out.
Shut up and get to work.
ADR is either alternative dialogue recording or automatic dialogue replacement. What ADR actually ends up being, though, is the process of replacing all of the dialogue in the film, or breaths, or grunts, or screams, or kisses, or anything to do with the human mouth, any vocal quality.
You should, because there's no such thing as a slow death, see?
Look, ADR basically means you're going to be stuck in a dark room all day.
It can drive you insane.
On the set, they often have, wind machine noise, or they might have, in fact, planes, sort of, in fact, flying over. There's any number of things can actually destroy the actual sound, on the day. So once they've actually cut the scene, we have to get the actors, in fact, back in and record again their sort of lines in the scene. At the end of the day, we're probably going to be, in fact, recording about 90+% of the dialogue.
The challenge here is to make the ADR look really natural, look in sync with their mouths, so that people aren't questioning it and going, that doesn't quite look right. And making it sound natural as well.
In ADR, you get these scripts, but it's not only every line, it's every little thing that you do. So one cue will be breaths.
We spend a lot of time shaping breath
so that they have a presence, so that it doesn't sound just like ADR.
Breaths arriving with camera.
Feverish nightmare breaths.
Breaths while lost in thought.
Concerned breaths.
Breaths looking around for source of gunfire.
Distracted breaths.
An inhale, which is nice, to balance it.
ADR. Acoustic Development Research. Mostly it's because it doesn't sound good, but sometimes it's because the acting was...
Peter and Fran have always, and this is what one of the things that they taught me, is that you get another shot at the story in post. And one of the places, it's not just in the edit, it's also in the ADR. Because voice is actually what carries performance.
Actually, it's kind of cool from an actor's perspective because it gives you a second chance to act, essentially.
In a lot of ways, it's harder than the original performance because you gotta match the lips perfectly. You gotta match the intensity.
You got to be really up when you see her. So up is good.
Anne, come on in. Let me introduce you to the crew. Don't erase that one.
Okay.
I think it might be a golden nugget on closer inspection.
Okay.
The actor has to come in here kind of cold,
Lost in what?
watch himself act in the scene and actually get himself back into that mode so that he can both, in fact, give us the actual performance on the day or something better.
Lighten the ship! Anything that's not bolted down goes overboard! I lost my breath.
Yeah, that's why we're going
The other reason to do ADR is because you've reshaped the storytelling, so you're picking up lines that have never existed before.
You can totally write new dialogue and throw it into the scene.
For real.
Yes, 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 yes. It'd be funny if we did a Peter. Yep, yep, yep. Yep.
Do a little homage.
Yeah, a little homage. Yep, yep, yep.
Cool. That was funny. That's Pete.
What's the hardest part about ADR? Getting Jack Black to keep his pants on. It's pretty hard.
I feel like I could hear my pants a little bit rustling.
I can hear the...
Let me take care of that. Let's do it again.
All right, so some pretty cool stuff to like. I love the behind the scenes look at all that stuff happening there. All right, so obviously we need to do ADR out of necessity because of production sound quality and stuff like that. But there's also sort of a different perspective that you can put on that, you know, for other reasons that you might need. And animation is a big one. So animation, you're not necessarily dealing with trying to recreate the production sound or something. So you're able to invent these characters, and that presents a whole bunch of new challenges, right? It makes it easier in some respects, but it makes it a little bit more challenging in others. So obviously it's going to lend to a little bit more flexibility on who is being cast, what they look like. You know, we're not dealing with, you know, the aesthetics of that person necessarily because we're recreating it in an animated sort of way. And it allows for maybe a little bit more creativity. But also, you've got to consider, are you choosing your talent first and then designing these animated characters around that person? Or are you creating something and then casting them? And how might that affect the final product? You know, obviously in Hollywood, there's such a thing as like star power. So you want to have this specific person. You know, you've got to have Justin Timberlake as, you know, the troll or whatever. But maybe you wind up having this character first, and then you try to figure out who's going to be just work best for the character. Some other things that we have to see is how do you, as a talent, make the character sound interesting and different? Because there's been, you know, it's not the first year that I've been making animated movies, so how do we make animated characters still sound interesting and unique and give them their own sort of persona? And that relies heavily on the people conceptualizing everything, and then obviously the talent also. Got a really cool example from the movie Rango with Johnny Depp as a chameleon. And it shows how a little bit of like this combination of animated movie production, along with sort of motion capture and performance capture. So it's an interesting sort of perspective on doing the dialogue for animated movies.
Crunchy, creamy, cookie, candy, cupcake. Rango is a lizard attempting to adapt to his surroundings.
Who exactly are you?
Name's Rango. That's what I said! He's trying to figure out what he's supposed to be, like most of us in life.
Hola.
You ain't from round here, are you?
It's certainly nothing I've ever done before, any of us have ever done before.
Open the door!
What's great about the way Gore Verbinski is directing this is that we're all on a stage.
Instead of motion capture, it's kind of emotion capture, using the actors as a reference for the emotionally animated character.
Oh! Now you get back on in there and you assert yourself, and I think you'll find the people of this here town to be surprisingly hospitable.
Thank you, Sheriff.
What? Not you again!
I stand corrected. You raise your game because you're working with other people. It's more of a natural acting experience.
Make your move.
Ooh, you're good. I think it just gives a bunch of grown-ups an opportunity to be silly.
What's he doing now?
I think it's a number 2.
Johnny Depp is Rango.
That's a really cool movie. If you haven't seen that one by now, check out Rango for sure. But an interesting sort of perspective on maybe a sort of a crossover between, you know, the classic ADR that would have to be done for a traditional film and animated film. So kind of interesting. All right, so the final area that maybe is overlooked when you consider things about ADR is dubbing from different languages. So this is a common practice and has been done for a number of years, and this is somebody's job, is to, you know, take foreign language films and, you know, dub over the dialogue in a different language. You know, so sometimes there's subtitles and stuff like that, but oftentimes you have the option to, you know, put dubbing on. So oftentimes these films are going to be re-recorded, the dialogue in different languages. But what are some of the issues that come along with that? Well, the easiest things is that there's synchronization problems because the words aren't exactly the same, so the mouths are going to be moving in different ways. In order, you know, there's some sort of compromise that you need to make. Do you want the dialogue to take place only when the actor's mouth is visibly moving on screen? And if so, does that mean that you're going to compromise what is actually being said and how that can be interpreted in a different language? So is that going to cause contextual issues based on what language you're hearing these things back in? It's kind of interesting. So here's a classic scene from a Godzilla movie where the English dubbing is just terrible and awesome to watch. So let's enjoy this scene from Godzilla. On and on, but I think you get the idea there. What you got to think about, though, is also how does this affect the rest of the filmmaking process? You know, Godzilla is one of those movie series that, you know, has 40-some entries and is often, you know, viewed and distributed in other countries. So, you know, maybe even in the production process, they realize, well, this is probably going to be redubbed in different languages, so why don't we make sure that in certain cases that we block the camera or we block the actors in such a way where they're, you know, that when that guy answered his telephone, his hand was in front of his mouth. So you don't have to worry so much about the synchronization issues, you know. Maybe there's some things like that we can do in the production process if you know that things are going to be dubbed in post-production. So you can obviously see how, you know, there are some interesting challenges when it comes to dubbing over in a foreign language and everything. All right, just a couple of things to say in regards to recording ADR, especially in Pro Tools. I'll provide some other links that will show you a little bit more specifically about what's going on with this. But when you're recording ADR, you want to make sure that you have some sort of count-off thing happening. There's a built-in count-off in Pro Tools that you can use. You can use a signal generator to sort of create your own 3, 2, 1, go. But just something that's easy, so wherever you put your cursor, you know, when you need to record, one line at a time of this dialogue that you're able to easily signal to your talent when the line is coming up, to begin. You need to be able to have quick and efficient access to those types of tools. Likewise, you want to make sure that under your preferences that you have loop record automatically creates new playlists. I'll show you a little bit more about that. But what this is going to allow you to do is take that one line, let's say it's just one sentence that you need an actor to re-record, and you can highlight that particular area, and as long as you're loop recording, you can have the talent re-record it 5-6 times really quickly, and then just go through and do what's called comping together the best parts of all these different takes using that playlist function in Pro Tools. Okay, so ADR is going to be a fun challenge for you guys. Hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.